Alright guys, welcome to RC Mojo. Now, I've not been out with the models this week, so there's no run video today, and I've not got anything new and shiny in the post, well not yet anyway, so I'm afraid it's back to the electronics this week. But I'll add some funky special effects, so it should be fun. Okay, here we go. This is the sound effects board. The layout isn't 100% complete, but it's pretty close. Starting at the top left, we have the skip pads. You can solder some wire to them with a common momentary button on the end. You can then use it to skip the current track when in playback mode. Hopefully you watched a previous video where we looked at the hardware running. If not, you might want to. Moving across, we have the digital interface header. This carries serial data from the light controller and power for the processor. Next are the prog pads. This is what I'll use to flash the firmware. Next we have the status LEDs, helpfully marked with R for red and G for green, just in case. They will tell you if the board is running okay. In the middle is the processor. It's 16-bit, runs at 16 MHz, has 16 kilobytes of flash, and a massive 512 bytes of RAM. Yay for embedded hardware. SW1 on the left here is a hex-encoded rotary switch. I don't have a 3D model of it, so imagine a big blue box with a slot on the outside face. You can turn the slot with a screwdriver to choose which horn you want to use. Bottom right is the 8-bit DAC. Still need to settle on the values. It takes the digital data from the processor and outputs an analog voltage. And in the bottom left is an op-amp, which takes the weak signal from the DAC and turns it into something a bit more robust that we can pass through the analog interface header. Flip the board over and we can see the last bit of the puzzle, a micro SD socket, which looks like this. Not exactly huge. This is a fancy latching push-in push-out one too. No worries about the card falling out. So that's got the audio signals going. We need a way to drive a speaker, and that's where this board comes in. Starting at the bottom this time, we have the analog header, just like the other board. There can be up to 3 sound sources. Each source board will be stacked up with the sound effects on the bottom and the amp, this one, on top. Moving on, we have a volume control. It'll need a screwdriver to tweak it, but in general it'll be a set and forget type control. The big 8-pin chip is the amplifier itself. On your average RC car battery it will do just under a watt into an 8 ohm speaker. It doesn't sound like much, but will be plenty to be getting on with. The big guy in the middle takes the input voltage and outputs a steady 3.3 volts to run the processing system on all the other boards. On the right edge we have 2 chunky capacitors, terminals for the speaker, a power supply select, so you can choose between running it from the BEC supply carried over from the light controller or a separate battery, which has its own terminals just next door. I need to test it with the BEC supply though, so that option might not make it to the final design. Back to the top and we have the expand headers. The top one is the input from the light controller, which is then passed through to the output header. You can daisy chain multiple accessories. Not entirely sure what yet, as this is the first accessory. Anyway, top right is an LED. It will light up if you power up the amp without any source boards connected. A nice warning if you leave it turned on. And of course, last but not least, is the digital interface header, which matches up to the sound effects board. That's about it then, all in its current state of course. Still quite a bit to do yet, but you can kind of see what we're aiming for. Should make for a nice little modular system when it's all done. I know I can't wait to fit out the Cross RC MC8 with RC Mojo electronics. Right, thanks for watching guys. Normal RC video delivering service will resume soon. A bit more light in the evenings will help. But we've got a little while before the clocks change. Anyway, bye guys.